Alright, this is video lesson part 2 on market structure. I know video lesson part 1 got a little long and was a bit lengthy, and I mean there's so much I could go on and talk about with market structure, but I left out a few key points, a few pieces of information that are very crucial. And like I said, there is so much that I could talk about with market structure because it's so unique. But I believe once you can grasp the concept at hand, you'll be able to take these unique structures and understand them a lot more clearly. So today we'll be going over the market story. What exactly is the market story? Why do I call it the market story? Uh, you know, a few different topics. Predictive programming. Predictive programming is something in the world of psychology. It is a kind of like it can be also a covert hypnosis type of type of deal. We'll go more in depth on this in a bit. Human emotional structure. We'll be going over how humans, how we all are emotionally set up, how our emotions are structured, and how we can be programmed to a certain extent. M and W reversal fractals. We'll be going over why we trade M and W reversal fractals, what they are exactly, and why they form, the main concept behind it. We will also be going over weekly and macro fractal cycles, weekly and also daily, and also on the monthly time frame, just any macro fractal. So right now on the chart we can see GBP USD, Great British Pound versus the US dollar. And what I'd like to point out is what we have here, this structure. Now this is something that I've been working on, or yeah, this is a project of mine, I guess, that I've been working on for quite a while now, a few months now, and it's basically how the market has a story, and it's very similar and set up very similar to how we as humans react to literally a story itself, or a book, or a novel, or a movie. It's all set up in this same way to get the best possible emotional reaction out of the viewer, or out of the receptor, the person that's receiving this information. So what differs from this structure to that of a story? How are you emotionally impacted by these bars going up and down, and by this motion? How would you be emotionally impacted by this? Well, there's no words, there's no actual story, there's nothing going on except the movement. But, okay, in other words, I could sit here and watch this all day. But once I commit funds into the market, once I commit myself, I am writing a story. Or in other words, the market is writing a story for me. Is writing this story. It's making highs and lows. It's creating these highs and lows inside of me, inside of emotionally. And this will be very detrimental to how you view the market over time if you are constantly being thrown through loops of highs and lows and you're constantly in drawdown. And this is the main point of this entire course. This is the main point, is to get the best possible entry to experience the least possible drawdown, to go and miss this cycle, to keep yourself out of this story. And you may not understand it right now, but you will once I bring up all these tabs that I have here. Okay. So, once we commit funds to this structure, it really doesn't matter how much we commit, our emotions are still going to be attached to this structure. So, why is this structure so important? What are these M and W's representing? We talked about a pump and dump scenario. We talked about this in one of our first lessons, where the market will pump up or pump down for a extended period of time, a very long time. It will take the market a very long time to pump either up or down, and then the market in a very, very, very short time period will then dump. All of the work that has been done in the pump will be eliminated by that one dump. And I believe this happened in like 1 second. Or, I'm sorry, like 1 minute. On the 1 minute chart, there was like, this bar came out of nowhere. It was for the GBP news. There was no news scheduled at the time, like there was no timing for it. But you could tell after this M that there was going to be a drop. You can see this macro M here, and then as well as this micro M as the second leg of the massive drop right there. So the micro inside of the macro. We'll get to why this is important right now, because you're probably wondering, well, what exactly are these M and W formations? You've probably been wondering this the entire time. What do they have to do with a story? The standard structure of a story has an introduction, some type of complication. We could call this a stop hunt in the market story. It has the move, the main move after the stop hunt. You could call this the pump, the middle, or the body. Then we have the climax. This is the standard structure of a story. I got these images off of Google, you guys. You can Google standard structure of a story and this pops up. I didn't like Photoshop these or anything. All of these images that I'm about to show you I got off of Google. There's the climax, the pinnacle of the story, the point at which your emotions are at their climax. The denouement, the series of events where conflicts are resolved. After the pump, the dealer must balance out the market or resolve the conflict. The dealer dumps the market, and then coda, the optional part at the end where the moral is resolved. Well, the moral of the story is the introduction and the coda. Let's say this is the euro US dollar, and it was at $1 right now, and it went to 1.1 up here. Well, at the end of the day, it ended at $1 again, as if the market didn't move at all, because the beginning and the end of the day, basically, they're at the same price. So, here's another one. The beginning, you choose a goal, commit to that goal. There's the crisis, the stop hunt, the first leg of the M, come down, consolidate a bit. The climax, where the stop hunt breaks the first leg of the M and then comes down. That's the shift of the zone back into the M. And then after that is the dump. Here we can see once again, these are all stories, you guys. These are all structures of stories that you can find on Google. Type in emotional structure of a story, and these will pop up. And it's very similar. You can see the similarity of this and this. Alright? The crises, you could call these stop hunts. Stop hunts to the high, stop hunts to the low, or whipsaws right before that climax, and then the denouement, where it closes at basically the same price as open. It ends at the same price as it began. Another one, basically the same thing. The basic story structure. We can see the whipsaw that we talk about. That boxed in consolidation right here. The hit to the low, lowest point, and then that showdown or that spike to the high, and then come off of the high in consolidation. This here, though, is the piece of the cake that we were looking for. This was what I really want to emphasize on you guys. Well, this and the next few images will be very very strong in my opinion. We have the status quo, GBP USD, the status quo or the consolidation. Then what do we have? The consolidation or the pump movement upwards. The rising action, committing to the goal, and then that's basically the middle, the entire pumping. we could say the beginning, the middle, and then the ending. Oops. Beginning, middle, and then the ending here. Very, very similar, you guys. We have the climax, then the epiphany or consolidation, and then the second leg, seizing the prize. That really got me going there. The market makers seizing the prize, spiking that climax, spiking the climax, breaking the high, right? That's what they do. They break the high, get everybody going and buying, and then what do? They trap retail traders here and they seize their prize. What's their prize? The trapped liquidity in this zone once they seize their prize, once they get out of that entire zone. We could even say that this big chunk is their prize. Because, I mean, that was a big shift in that zone. Obviously, there's a lot of liquidity in this area. So, here we can see rapidly falling action and then the new status quo. Rapidly falling action, that was a 200 plus pip drop in just a few minutes. And then this status quo was about 4 days and 100 pip range. Here we can see this one for maybe 6 days in a 120, 130 pip range. Very, very similar, you guys. Very similar. And this is just the M formation. This is the M formation that we're talking about right now. The exact same happens with the W formation. There's that the status quo, the climax, seizing of the prize, and then the status quo, new status quo. Rapidly rising action, because it's the exact inverse as an M, but it's a W, right? And here we can see, how would we know that this, how could we known that we could have bought at this exact low right here? Well, at that very low is this previous structure right here. The market created its low, its lowest point, and then created that W formation and worked off of that low, that W fractal. That could have been an easy 300 pips, and then that W caught 100 plus pips up. And then right after that, we can see another high was formed right here. And then what do we see after that high? Well, this status quo connects to this new status quo, which creates the climax and then the seizing of the prize, right? Let that be your seizing of the prize, you guys. Don't be caught in this BS anymore. Don't be caught by the dealers working the market to your disadvantage. Don't get caught in this. Don't get caught in any of this unless you're selling. We can see it all over. After that dump, there's that status quo, the new status quo, the rising action, the climax, seizing of the prize, and then that falling action. A new status quo. And when I say status quo, you could say that's just, consolidation. Status quos, consolidation, whatever. So, hopefully you guys are having your minds absolutely blowing right now, because I know I did. How exactly did I come up with this? Well, I was binging on Netflix, and I never ever watch TV or Netflix or like movies or anything for that matter, but I just happened to like wanna watch Netflix for some reason, and the markets weren't open. It was a Saturday, and I turned on the TV and I watched like this series of it was a TV series called The 100. And after watching that, and after each episode, I felt like I was trading the market, and it was so strange. It was like I just got done trading, and I just got done throwing through like this loop, especially when you're trading and you feel, at the end of the week, you feel like you're drained. You were throwing through a loop. Even if you profited, it's still an exhausting journey. And I felt the same way, even though I didn't trade or anything. I didn't even look at the market. And that was when I started realizing that there could be something a lot more to this. There's something bigger behind the structure of the market, and I started analyzing structures of stories and movies and how narratives are set up, how you narrate something, and how you structure something to get an emotional reaction out of your viewer, or in this case, out of your client. Your client. We are the clients, you guys. So, this is where this comes up. Episode breaks. The episode breaks, like I said, like I was talking about when I was watching the TV episode, or the movie, in between each episode, I felt like I was taking those like trades or something, and it clicked in my mind. What happens in the market for consolidation is very similar to what happens in a movie or in an episode, a TV series. In a TV episode or a movie, the beginning of the movie and the ending of the movie have to end and begin in consolidation, or in other words, in suspense, to keep you wanting more. If the end of the movie, or if the end of the episode didn't end in some sort of suspense, why would you want to go and watch the next episode? if you have nothing to see, if there's nothing there to watch, if you haven't been, programmed to want to watch the next episode. And this is what happens in Forex as well. The end and the beginning of each day always end and begin in consolidation. Always, always, always. 99% of the time, you will see the end and the beginning of the day connect each other in consolidation. What also occurs in this connecting of consolidation is the formation of trends. The formation of a trend couldn't happen if there wasn't consolidation. Otherwise, it would just be this weird up and down movement. These consolidation areas you could call, let's say, connection ports or connection areas. They connect the market together. They're necessary for the market to create the movement that it creates. So, the creation of a trend is very, very similar. Sorry, pardon my art. Okay, the creation of a trend is very, very similar to a series plot or a series timeline of the episode breaks or the intensity of episode breaks in between TV shows, or in other words, in the market, very similar to the movements that we see going on. The creation of a trend, that up and down, even on the macro scale, we can see that consolidation, hit to the low, hit to the high, hit to the low, and then end in consolidation. Hit to the low, hit to the high here, consolidation, hit to the high, consolidation, hit to the high, hit to the low, consolidation, hit to the low, and you get it. So, very, very similar. We see these similarities all over. And could this be because we've been pre-programmed to this structure? This is where I'm going to talk about predictive programming. So, predictive programming is basically well, 9/11. 9/11, if you know anything about it, apparently 2 planes crashed into the Twin Towers, and on 9/11, the date, and apparently, that was a terrorist attack, and there wasn't really much. It was almost like it was it already happened in our minds. In other words, we didn't really react to what happened on 9/11. And if you go back into time, you'll realize why this happened. And I'm not here to talk about conspiracy theories or anything, but I want to show you what predictive programming really is. Predictive programming, and it happens all the time. 9/11 predictive programming. You can look this up all over. Before 9/11, on all these movies, on all these different movies that were coming out, were basically putting in your face 9/11. New York, $9. The Twin Towers, 9/11. This was The Simpsons. There's so many. Here is a different movie. Supertramp. We have the Twin Towers in the background, and it's in a plane window. We have that square around the Twin Towers. I mean, there's just so many, you guys. On different clocks, Independence Day, this was on 1996, 9/11/01, 9/11/2001, and these events, or these predictions, these numbers, are thrown in your face so much. These are just the ones that people have came out and seen as well. They're thrown in your face so much. Like, here's a bunch of different ones. Predictions prior to 9/11, just a different part 1 or whatever. These things are put in your face, thrown in your face, to get you to see, like, the truth is right in your face, but it's there so you can't see it. You're completely blind to it. And a lot of people are starting to wake up to what predictive programming is, how they're putting this programming in our media to get us to become numb to what is happening, to the future. No matter how bad the situation is, we are already numbed to it. We're already programmed to have this happen. So many different predictive programming scenarios. So what does this have to do with the market, you say? Well, if the market mimics the structure of a story or a movie or a plot, a narrative, how many books have you read? How many books has your mother read to you when you were a baby? How many stories, bedtime stories, did someone read to you? Like, even as a child, as children, we were programmed into this structure. We've been pre-programmed into this structure. And it's inside of us. This emotional structure is inside of us because it's been pre-programmed inside of us. We were once pure creations. We were once 100% unique, pure beings, until these narratives came along, until these structures came along to pre-program us. And you can take what I'm saying as crazy, or, whatever you want to call me, whatever you want to say, but I honestly believe that the reason that 99% of people fail is because they don't see what's right in front of them. If they saw what's right in front of them, like, would you guys have seen this if I didn't point it out to you? There's so much going on right now. There's so many indicators. Why is that? Why is there so many indicators? Hundreds of thousands, if not millions of indicators, yet so little actual knowledge on market structure. Why is that? It's because it's structured this way. We're blinded to what's in front of us. We've been pre-programmed. Every movie you've watched, every TV show, every book, it's all pre-programming your emotional output, your emotional structure, your highs and lows, the highs and lows. Just like in the market, there's highs and lows. Just like in a movie, in a TV show, there's the story, you get the highs, you get the lows, and then the ending. All the time. That's what it's structured. It's how you get the best possible emotional output of a human being. They're exploiting our emotions, you guys. This is an absolute exploit of human emotion right here. And this is really what I wanted to focus upon for this lesson, this video lesson. So, I believe I've gone over a lot. The W, really the same thing like I talked about before. The inverse M, but this you could call I guess I found this on the internet, a W plot, or a plot for a narrative of a structure of a story. Very similar to the W formation that we see on GBP USD right here. Exactly the same. The initial driver, or the initial stop hunt to the low, creating that low, and then the complication, or the come off of the low to consolidate, and then that second spike, or the driver, the move to the crisis, the driver, the stop hunt to the low, and then that move to resolution, the seizing of the prize, the second leg of the W. Now this is very very unique in my opinion. Very unique information that I'm putting out for you guys. And what you're about to see here is something that I believe has never been, none of this has ever been shared. No one has ever seen the market in this way before, in my opinion. I've never seen anybody or any person explain the market like this. So right now we're going to end the video lesson on weekly and macrofractal cycles. There was a I found this image on the web. Okay, yeah, it's right here. I found these images on the Institute for Congregational Trauma and Growth. And these are phases of a disaster. Literal emotional structure of how a human will react during a disaster. And you can see here 1 to 3 days or 1 to 3 years. This happens on a micro and a macro scale. What is very interesting to me is 1 to 3 days. Well, the market is open 5 days a week, right? And Friday and Sunday connect to each other. Or in other words, just like how the end of the day and the beginning of the day connect to each other in consolidation, well, the beginning and the ending of the week also connect to each other in consolidation. So, this consolidation at Sunday and Friday, or these trap zones, these trap moves, a lot of times will happen on Sunday and Friday. That leaves 3 days in between to complete this cycle. They have 3 days in between. What would be in the middle of the week? Wednesday. What do we know happens on Wednesday? On Wednesday is all the high impact news for the week. Most of the time on Wednesday, we have tons of high impact news, more than any other week. Wednesday and Thursday. This isn't a coincidence. It's to complete this cycle, this structure, as fast as possible. And they will do it through high impact news events. You can go on here to see yourself, ict.org/phases-of-disaster-response.html. Check it out. Check it out, you guys. Just to show you that, I'm not like faking these or photoshopping these images or something. They're actual legit images of structure. And here we can see GBP USD. This was on the 15-minute chart. I'd go back and find it right now, but I don't really have the time to do that. But what do we see here? Can you see something there that's very similar? We have the pre-disaster or the consolidation. Then we have the event, that stop hunt to the low, right? The consolidation, stop hunt to the low, that event, the fake out to the low, and then, which is also a breakout of this consolidation, and then that move upwards, that honeymoon, or the heroic community coercion, or cohesion. Then we have the head and shoulders pattern. We see it better on here. We see the head and shoulders pattern after that stop hunt to the low. Coming up, we see trigger events, or in other words, a head and shoulders pattern. Right here, trigger events, head and shoulders pattern, and then we see the completion of the daily cycle, the whipsaw. This large bar right here on the GBP USD was a random news like spike that came out of nowhere. But nonetheless, it was to complete that cycle, complete the disillusionment. A lot of people got stopped out there and also thought that the market was going short because of this red candle, this big red candle. So as soon as they went short, they got trapped in this area. Now these are this phase of disaster. These phases of disaster are or can be seen on the charts as weekly structures. Now I don't have a chart for you guys to look at right now as a weekly structure, but that is the weekly structure. Most of the time you'll see this concept as a weekly structure. This hit to the high and hit to the low. Just really, for the weekly structure, I don't know how I can explain it to you guys. I'm going to have to put some charts up to show the typical week or the average week, but it is very similar to these phases of disaster, which we can see here. It's just the spiking to the highs and the lows to create that emotional response within the clients or us. So, with that being said, thank you guys for joining. Thank you guys for watching this video lesson. Until the next one, peace out.